Lunacy community. It's Jeff Ado. If you haven't heard part one of this conversation with Lucien, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's a great conversation. Without further ado, here's Lucien part 2.
All of this work that I've dedicated the last 14 years of my life to, it really started. I did a 6-month deep sojourn with ayahuasca, and I went to the mountain and I asked, like, what is my purpose? And I heard this voice say, I am. And it also said, we are. And I was like, I am. I didn't even know I am had a tradition at that stage. Mm-hmm. And initially, because I was a tech CEO, I was like, oh, I'll just make a app called I am, But what I really realized that was the beginning of my journey to explore the nature of how do we build and design and work with developing inner mastery. Mm-hmm. How do we improve our operating systems? How do we build a better way of educating ourselves so that we become deeply conscious in the road of life, in the road of parenthood, in the road of living?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really great. I want to acknowledge you for doing that work, because it's super important.
Thank you.
And also, it's great to experience and talk to you about it. It's definitely that's a big dream of mine. How great would it be if, instead of, social studies, they were teaching processing, how to process life, or they're teaching like a class on love in our regular, every there should be a love class. I talked to Patch Adams. I interviewed him for this documentary forthcoming about hunger. If you haven't seen the Robin Williams movie, whatever. Patch Adams is an amazing doctor guy who heals people with laughter and love and such. And he's like, why isn't there a love class? There should be a love class every grade where you're talking about love and what love means and how do you love your life more? How do you love your brothers and sisters more? I mean, also like you're not just your literal brothers and sisters, but your figurative brothers and sisters. Like, how do we fall in love with our lives more? Why isn't that a class?
Yeah, and why isn't love class? I mean, love class should not be a partisan issue.
About a part of what?
Partisan issue.
No, that's not a partisan issue. No, that's everyone. Yeah, that's everybody. I don't know why anybody would be, well, you're not teaching my kid about love. I want him to be terrified. I want my child to live in fear and be miserable.
That's the right question to ask. That's the right, I feel that's the right direction,
I definitely.
That's the right way to go,
Yeah. And it's, I think, for those of us who see, and we've been talking about this a lot over the last few days, for those of us who see the writing on the wall, so to speak, and do see the sort of hell in the handbasket thing, or like what's happening politically, like in Europe, et cetera, and here, et cetera, like not just the polarization, but the control mechanisms and like all kinds of terrible things, and astrologically, whatever credence you give to that, I think it's interesting to look at it. But it's like where we are coming to this age of awakening, and it's hard for a lot of people. We were talking, Christine was mentioned, she was like, I don't know, man, I don't know if this is going to happen. But there is a great awakening that is possible for humanity, where we can live a much more conscious life if we are invested in it. And if it doesn't take that many of us to really be fully invested in living that life for it to transform the whole. And then it's a whole different ball game that we're playing as humanity on this planet. Can you imagine like how we would be handling nature and rainforests and whales and dolphins and energy consumption and, greed and like actually taking care of each other and being of service? And like, can you imagine that world? I can imagine that world. You can see that world. We can see that world. It's like, it's sexy and it's great and it's beautiful. and it's not, I feel like it's not, anybody who has come this far and listening to this podcast, I submit, is invested in that kind of life. Because why would you waste your time if you didn't want that for yourself? So shout out to all of you out there listening. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. It's a funny thing too. It's also like an acceptance of how do I want to phrase this? It's like what you're talking, you're talking about Christine talking about, I don't know if we're gonna make it. And
that's, by the way, that's legit.
A lot of people feel that way. Mm-hmm. And but also I want to go to that law of correspondence thing again. Like, even in your own how many times throughout your life where you may have had that moment, not are we going to make it? Am I going to make it?
Right.
And it felt like you were like maybe not going to make it. Mm-hmm. But you were in perhaps the dark night of the soul, or you were in the chrysalis. You were in the very vulnerable stage of chaos. Mm-hmm. Like we're in, if you think about it from like an alchemical perspective, alchemy is another great metaphor.
Great.
If you heat something up, all the little molecules that were once solid, like start to jiggle around, and they jiggle to the point of actually changing form. Mm-hmm. And when one could argue that when they're jiggling and building a lot of heat, there's a lot of chaos going on. There's a lot going on, and when you're in that, you may think it's Revelations. It's like,
Revelations. Like,
you're in the fire of...
Not revelational, like Revelations, like the shits were dying.
You're in the doomsday moment. You're in the forest. You're in the fire.
Yeah.
And, but you're actually, you're in a period of changing form.
Mm-hmm. Right. Metamorphosis.
You're in a period of metamorphosis. There's an amazing YouTube video of a rabbi talking about the lobster.
Oh, yeah.
And the lobster, the lobster, has a shell, and at some point, the lobster gets too big for its britches and can no longer be held by that shell and must release it. And in that moment, that lobster is extremely vulnerable. It's one might even think that it may think that it may not make it. It's a
big, tasty, unshelled thing,
and it's very vulnerable to all kinds of possibilities of its own demise.
Yeah,
but it's also a period where it incredibly expands. Mm-hmm. It's the most period of expansion, and then it forms its new shell, and then it is its new self. Mm-hmm. And very much, I love that metaphor for all the programs that, it's a core principle of the book, is that, you have to let certain things go to free up that RAM, mm-hmm. so that that chrysalis process can happen. It's a scary period. Sometimes it's little scary periods, but sometimes it's a big, big scary period. But of course, the more consciousness and awareness that that's what's happening, mm-hmm. dramatically shifts the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can have faith in the process, if you can have faith that this is like something, this is me becoming greater than I was, that this is me getting bigger than my shell could contain before, then that's tremendously helpful. And also the acceptance that this process is never ending. And as sad and daunting as that may seem at first glance, it's just that's also the joy of life. I mean, that's the joy of life. Fun. Yeah, that I'm gonna keep becoming. I'm gonna keep tripping up and falling down, and I'm gonna keep standing up. How fast can I stand up? How much taller can I stand up this next time? And then I'm building these tools that are going to allow me to tackle bigger and bigger bosses, and for me, like it like the two things that I come back to a lot, because again, pride, right? Is such a fucker. It's such a fucker. Fucking pride, right? Is, am I willing to stand in my weakness? Am I willing to actually stand in my weakness and look at my shadow and acknowledge that I have weakness, and then look at it? And am I willing to give up being right? Like, I mean, I really hope and pray, and this is also kind of a landmark Warren Earhart thing, but it's also a Buddhist thing, is the necessity for, and it's a Christian thing too, the necessity for us to, like, how important it is for us to give up being right. Like, God, man, how many people die being right and they're dead and unhappy? I fucking guarantee you that guy dies and he's like, what was I like? Come on, why didn't I just let it go? Why didn't I forgive? Why wasn't I loving? No, I had to be right about this stupid thing.
Goes back to that pride thing that you
pride. Yeah, it's just pride. Being right is not, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that important. And if I'm willing to give up being right, what does that make available for me in terms of my relationship and my life? Now, for you and your work, like, how is it that people change?
Yeah, well, not being right allows you to see the gift, that allows you to process, the data in a way that's helpful to you. Mm-hmm. And like, for people, someone I'm dating right now, they're asking me, man, you're so good with this part of the relationship, And I was like, well, this part that you love about me is built upon the altar of a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
A lot of other relationships saying that this is the worst part about me.
Yeah.
Because so
many skeletons.
I had to become this from the pain of seeing that I wasn't that. Mm-hmm. And the only way I would ever get to be the thing that, like, wasn't that is to be exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Is be like, I gotta be humble here. It's like humble pie time, and like,
yeah,
like, I gotta really I gotta face myself. Mm-hmm. So facing the self is facing the shadow.
Yeah,
facing the shadow is a big deal, and there's a huge part of the work that I do that is, I would say, 1/3 of, like, the core of the work is shadow work. Mm. Because before you can activate all the high frequency stuff, you really have to go into the root. You have to do the root work. People who bypass that, they get in those higher frequencies, but they don't do the root work, and all it just comes, it surfaces up back into the pattern.
Yeah. And
so
you see that a lot with, like, spiritual leaders and whatnot who, like, or just people who self-identify. They're really high in certain places, but then, wow, they just are
huge blind spots.
Total jerk in some other place that they didn't investigate and look at. They weren't willing to be humble in.
If the ego self-identifies with the higher frequency and attaches its persona to, like, being that, and hasn't done the root work, then they're like your classic narcissist, like spiritual narcissist, or like, coach narcissist or leader narcissist or whatever, they're like, they're drinking their own Kool-Aid, mm-hmm. They're drinking their own Kool-Aid. And, I've been down that road. And it's, you've got to really be careful with that one. Mm-hmm. And that's why you got to go back to the shadow work. So, like, we're getting into this notion of, like, state change. So it comes back to awareness. How many gremlins, I like to call them gremlins, because they're in the vehicle, they're in the ship. Like, mm-hmm. You're driving the ship, but, like, they're like eating at the wires.
Yeah.
And like, they're just causing all kinds of stuff. And because you don't really know who they are and how they're operating, so you have to be committed to bringing light to shadow. And in order to do that, you do the shadow work. And there's a variety of techniques. I use a particular method using art catharsis and ways of, I call it shadow scouting. So you like a bird dog, you got to build like the bird dog. It's kind of like the witness mind, but it's like also a part of your consciousness that can catch yourself moving into shadow. And you have to be able to get good at bird dogging the triggers, like what's triggering you in the situation, knowing what your triggers are.
Yeah.
This is classic shadow stuff. But also the cues. So I call cues, like in the system, it's going to come out in the book, and what I use in all my programs is that you have to understand your triggers, but you also have to understand your cues. And the cues are the ways of thinking, the cues are the ways of thinking, being, or believing that are expressed in your mind, in your body, in the way you respond, the way you feel, that tell you you're in the shadow state. You're in the gremlin has taken control. Like, it's perfect. Like the in and out, that movie Inside Out. Mm-hmm. Just imagine that concept, but yeah, more sophisticated, lots of different aspects running. Some are in the unconscious. So the idea is that in operating system mastery, what we want to do is the first part of the work is to take these gremlins running the ship and like eating the wires and taking over unconsciously your system. We want to bring them forward
into the light,
into your field of observation, to give them names, to give them descriptions, to get to understand the triggers that trigger them, to get to understand the cues that tell you they're in effect, and to allow you to do we call the root work, rooting into the initial seed, trauma, belief system, imprint that formed that part. And this connects to parts work. There's a lot of pieces there. I've kind of created my own language around it that just makes it, I don't know, like more playful perhaps, at least, and also allows my personality to be a coach in it. We have our own ways of teaching.
Yeah.
And so to bring it out of the blind spot so that's the awareness work that we talked right in the beginning of the talk, like that, bring into awareness, bringing more definition. I call it unearthing the jewel, like seeing, like at first it's just these voices or beings or energies that just take over and come into play. And then it's like you see them, you see how they're shaped, you see how they respond. You're in this hyperdimensional petri dish of your own consciousness that you start you start getting in the lab of you.
Yeah.
And you have fun with it. Like that's a big thing with like the way I approach it is like, you got all this stuff going on. You might as well have fun with looking at this pantheon of energy. Be a
scientist about it.
Be a scientist, be playful, be like descriptive, look at these characters and have fun with them and bring an art to it, And so for some of my clients, we build entire tarot decks of their consciousness.
Oh yeah. Therapy.
And this is the art therapy part. And we have them in some cases draw symbols for them. I have a new program that allows people to create Midjourney, AI imagery, or have artists cultivate art for their things that help them see it.
Yeah.
different ways, that whatever feels natural for the person. But if they can see it, if they can create a name to it, if they can create an image to it, they can create a symbol to it, then they can work with it. They can navigate it. And so when I talk about mastery, that's what I'm talking about mastering. That's the first stage, which is the shadow mastery. The second stage of that is learning how to move from those states into the higher frequency states. And Joe Dispenza, I mean, this is a core of Joe Dispenza's work, you know? And that connects to things like what Joe Dispenza speaks to, neurolinguistic programming. I've integrated a variety of techniques that help create a shift that teaches the mind and the body spirit matrix to lift the needle out of that state and move it into new states. And form, I love that metaphor of the needle, like forming new grooves. And the more you form the new grooves, the neuroplasticity, the repatterning, we don't even realize how malleable we are. And it's like, you know, just for some of my clients, it's like, I can't believe that I totally changed in 2 weeks. You've never taken the time to daily move the needle from there to there. And you may be surprised that just by doing that every day, it becomes progressively easier to...
You can skip that shitty song.
You can skip the shit. You can get out of that earworm hook of that song that was like taking over your life.
Your life's a pile of shit. Your life's a pile of shit. Your life's a pile of shit.
Or everything is awesome. And so, yeah, like everything is awesome. Let's get over to that groove.
Right.
And so that's the other thing, which is like creating new aspects, creating new ways of being. And it's this, I use a lot of, it's slightly different, but similar techniques of visualizing, feeling into these new aspects of consciousness, these new aspects of your persona that either transmute those shadows or perhaps even transmute a whole cadre of shadows. And
yeah, because a lot of them are related.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're intertwined and
They're
interdependent on each other.
And sometimes you just moving into a certain frequency moves a whole group of them.
Yeah.
And so that's why my book is called The Art of Becoming, because it's really about understanding the art of how you become this for you.
Right.
Because the art of me becoming whatever I wish to be is different than the art. Using similar techniques and approaches and canvas and paints and approaches and techniques, but your particular masterpiece and the process of reaching your masterpiece will be your art.
Yeah, totally different.
And that is
independent.
That's what it's all for me.
Be.
That's what it's all about. Is that exploration. And every single time I ever work with a different client or do a different group or do a different retreat, I learn so much because one person's art of becoming will tell me so much about myself that I could only see through them.
Right.
Like just sitting with you for this week and seeing what you're going through and like reflecting that back on my own life and seeing how you're handling it, like is informing my own art of becoming, you know, because I'm like into you, into me, I see, you know, like building an intimate relationship in brotherhood with you and seeing you as a mirror allows me to also improve or enhance the art of my own becoming or the understanding of myself.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel the exact same way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You talk about, you know, that like when you really like see your shadow becomes more of like when you transform that, it can become a source of like, you know, power for you. Right? Don't you talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
So tell us, what does that mean? Like, you identify the shadow, you name the shadow, you see it, you switch the groove. Then what happens to that shadow?
Well, it doesn't go away. It changes form.
Right.
Because the wisdom of becoming empowerment, the wisdom of becoming empowered, for example, is seeded in the seeds of disempowerment.
Yeah. You cannot become empowered unless you're disempowered. It's true.
Like, so, again, I want to just really honor Richard Rudd's work and the Gene Keys, and even back to the work of the I Ching is this fundamental understanding that within every great thing, within every beautiful thing, there is the seed of its own shadow, and they're through the eyes of the divine, they are equally beautiful. Mm-hmm. Because only through, I love this. There's a great saying, light without shadow has no depth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's the shadow that allows us to have depth, because we've been there. We've moved past the victim of being in shadow, and we've alchemized the shadow into its gift.
Yeah.
And that's the work.
Which allows it to evolve too.
Wow.
It's like turning your gremlins into unicorns.
Yeah.
Or something.
Exactly. Into Mogwai.
Yeah. Mogwai. Yeah. Turn it back into Mogwai.
Yeah. They become your allies, and they're hard-earned powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're hard. There's nothing like rolling up your sleeves and like really going there, and the person that you become from like doing that level of work, the type of inner strength and fortitude that one is built by doing such work is very powerful. It's more than any it's exponentially more powerful than watching a movie about it or reading a book about it.
Definitely.
Or being told about it.
Yeah.
And I fundamentally believe that is why, if we're at the metaphysical level, we incarnate. Mm-hmm. Because in the material realm, I mean, when we suffer, we suffer. It feels real. It hurts real. We go through it. Like we're in the theater of our own creation in a way that is like extremely visceral.
Yeah.
Extremely tactile. Mm-hmm. And when it's that level, it gets into like the marrow of our being. And the key is like, that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm going through. And like, how am I Aikidoing this? How am I a master of working with this as raw materials for me just becoming more epic in the way I live my life?
Yeah. And
I'm eternally fascinated with this process.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I likewise, I'm super fascinated by it in my own life and in witnessing others, and in like, I don't know, encouraging. I feel like very much I'm about that life, encouraging people to just look and be self-aware and be self-empowered and like see what that brings. And also because like, gosh, life is so boring otherwise. It's so boring being downtrodden and suffering and living in fear all the time. Like, why would you?
Right. That's marinating in the shadow. That's like bathing in like, that's the existential king part of it. That's
masturbation.
Like,
but not good masturbation. You can masturbate. You can make love to yourself. Wow, you can have there's an experience to be had there. There's a woo, But if you're just yanking it in the corner, like so that you can feel good, and then you're gonna feel all guilty and shamey about it afterwards, like that sucks.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna feel even worse. Because then the guilt and shame are going to get even worse. It's like, do you really want, it's like that, Trinity with Neo, and he's about to get out of the car, and she's like, "You've been down that road before. You know where it leads." And he's like, shuts the door. She's like, "You're right. I don't need to jerk off again." That's what's really happening underneath. Everybody, in case you were wondering what was going on in the Matrix, is just he was about to go yank it in the corner in the rain. That's it. Lunacy is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Danger sounds like a terrible name. Does that mean it's dangerous? No, bucko, that makes you dangerous, Rock. It's so dang good for you. Instant samurai, yeah, like steroids for Arnold, but with antioxidants, go. This coffee is handpicked from select farms for the incredible quality of the beans, and it's remineralized. That means that it's been infused with over 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, making you even more energized and feeling even more like Super You. It helps you detox. It boosts cells' performance. It gives all those internal things happening that we are blatantly unaware of a huge boost. Finally, and this is the reason I started buying it in the first place, okay? It's mold tested by a third party. Sorry to say, most coffee is not mold tested, and tons of it has mold that you cannot see, which is disgusting. It means your coffee becomes a toxin delivery system. Not what you want. This shit is clean as a whistle. All the good stuff, none of the bad. And you get 10% off when you type in Lunacy at checkout. Do it. You know you want to do it, so do it, all right? DangerCoffee.com, Lunacy at checkout. DangerCoffee.com, Lunacy at checkout, yeah. Lunacy is brought to you by Analemma Water. What is that? Well, it's structured water. I don't know if you've heard about this, but our regular water is not structured, and it's lacking in some stuff. All right? Structured water means that it's like supercharged, okay? And the Analemma wand actually trains the water around it to also be supercharged. Is that true? I don't know. I was extremely skeptical about this, and a friend brought it to me and was like, "You got to try this," and I was like, "That's horseshit." And then I tasted it, and I was like, "That tastes good. Why does that taste good? Why does it taste better? I don't know why it tastes better." And I tried it time and time again, and finally I was like, "Okay, I'm going to invest in the wand. It's not that expensive, under $200. I was like, I'll try it out. I'm telling you, it works. It's helped me. I feel like it's helped me. And that could just be my own placebo. I don't really care, okay? Because go placebo. But honestly, I really believe that it works. They've done a bunch of tests. It's really good for your gut biome, which I desperately need. It's very good for your mitochondrial output, your cells. It's very good for your brain. They say it's good for anti-aging. And I firmly believe that it is an improvement in our regular water. So go to Analemma Water, check it out, type in Lunacy at checkout for 10% off. Invest in yourself. This is it.
That's another really good thing that just reflected for me was that the incarnated path of awakening is not just the ability to, really feel the trip and the fall, but to know, to have memory, the gift of memory, to be able to have that awareness, to be like, wait a minute, this is a different version of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I been down this road before.
Yeah.
And am I gonna, I'm getting the opportunity. That's like the cyclical piece, the spiral dynamics. Like I'm coming around the bend. And sometimes we come around the bend in a completely different way. Sometimes we're the villain of the story, whereas we're the hero. Or sometimes we're the negotiator or the peacekeeper of the story, where we were the villain in one story and then we were the hero in another, or the victim in another. Yeah. And now we're in the same story. Mm-hmm. So we have also the opportunity to hold a different energy and consciousness, that just by being like the peacemaker, because we've been on the other sides of the diamond, we now can transmute it, and perhaps transmuting it for this person who's in crisis, because we've been there, transmutes it for us. By healing someone else,
yes,
we heal ourselves.
For sure.
And so it's fascinating. There's so many ways to play.
Yeah. And the reciprocation you're pointing to, for me, you're pointing to the reciprocation of service and the importance of service. Like,
That's right.
I have a line in one of my songs that I wrote recently: "Only in service do I find myself."
Oh wow.
Yeah, like
Okay,
that's
amazing.
It's this song.
Only in service do I find
myself. Song
myself.
called "Listen" that I wrote. Yeah, only in service do I find myself, and in the end, the only wealth is health. But it's true. Like
Health of the body, health of the mind, health of the spirit.
Yeah, that's really true.
Goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I'll
That's
play
good.
it for you later.
Yeah. It's great.
I'll play it for you guys later too. But only in service. Yeah. Then you're creating this reciprocal work, this reciprocal loop where it's like, especially as an elder, which,
Right.
like it or not,
Right,
because we're becoming elders.
Wow, you just pointed out another great thing of the incarnated path, which is at some stage you move into eldership.
Yes.
Where you've been around the cycle enough to hopefully have hold the wisdom.
Yes. Hopefully,
because wisdom only comes through. Wisdom is not learned; it is experience. It's by like looking at the different points in like Indra's web of like consciousness. Like I see it from here, I see it from there, and like by having these different perspectives, you somehow in consciousness become enwizened.
Yeah.
So you're able to offer a perspective that is an enwizened perspective, which, yeah, like that, again, when we talk about the initiations, you know, which I think, again, points, I mean, if we're going to jump to like the societal point, it's like, where are our elders? Like,
yeah.
Where are we putting?
Why don't we appreciate them?
And there's no place for our elders in Western society, and
right,
that's something else that is a dis-ease in the collective. It's a great loss.
Huge. It's and like, I mean, that's where the gold is.
Yeah,
especially for the people, the wise and well elders, you know, the people who have really like invested their lives
in that
becoming
process.
a better person, you know, like into evolving in whatever way that means. And it could just mean like they're a really great sculptor or whatever. It could be vocational. It could be
vocational, yeah.
Psychological. It could be how they father. How
really good dad. Yeah, like
really
good dad.
Man,
like,
how many more?
Give me the codes, man.
Yeah, dude, let's go. Like, why is it that we don't honor that? It just makes zero sense. No, throw them in a home or whatever. Pretend like they're not dying, you know, or like listen to fucking Cat Stevens, that song. My dad.
It's a brilliant idea.
That song. It's
a brilliant idea for a
Cats
platform.
in the cradle with the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon.
Yeah, Cats in the cradle.
Coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Yeah, I mean, it's this song about like the lack of connection and the lack of like, we don't reach out to our elders. We don't reach out and embrace that juice that's so important.
The guidance, the hard-earned guidance system of someone who's been there, done that.
Yeah, there's something that I wanted to mention.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I mean, look, maybe we should build it, or someone out there build it, like a platform for elders. Like, let's create a platform for elders of the world, and give them a voice
to transmute their lessons,
and turn it into resource. What a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I know there's an episode of this show. Well, I mean, we're borderline. They say 52 is elder in a lot of traditions, and I think that's right. And you and I are way younger than that. So far younger, it's ridiculous. I'm not even getting into it, but you know, it's on the cusp here, coming at us. There's an episode with Velagiri that I did. I'll insert the number of episode that it was, but that's really worth listening to. That's a great elder story of like reconciliation and compassion and love, and wow, that guy went through so much. Anyway, but the other thing that I wanted to mention, which ties back to the if we don't actively participate in our own healing, if we don't consciously evolve, if we don't take the brave step of being like, okay, this isn't just all happenstance, that we're here for a reason, that there are lessons to be learned, that I'm just going to take that on that perspective to see what happens. If we just sit there and stew on our own juices and stew in our own misery and live in our own victim, and fundamentally bad masturbate, our lives away, like, we're just throwing away that energy. And something that was so profound and powerful for me when I was in college from an elder was, I had this Zen teacher, Father Ben Ren, who was a Jesuit priest at the time, and he would say, we're all sadomasochists. All of us are sadomasochists. When you start to see that, you'll start to see the truth. Like, we're all constantly sadists. We're inflicting pain on ourselves and on others.
Wow.
And we're all masochists. We're all feeling pain and getting off on the feeling of pain. Like, we're just constantly sadomasochists. That's what we're doing. Listen to the amount of complaining that goes on, not just from other people, from yourself and your own mind, in my own mind, like the amount of complaint. If I think, oh wow, I'm being a sadomasochist right now in my life with what I'm doing, whether it's addiction or being right or being prideful or whatever, like being a jerk, or I'm being a victim because this terrible thing happened to me and I had these circumstances that occurred that might be totally valid. You could have something really rotten happen to you, like rape, or like somebody tried to kill you, or you got beaten, or whatever, like these awful things. Do you stay in that place? Do you stew in the misery of being a victim because of that? Or do you rise above and recognize that I survived all that mess, and here I am to tell the tale, and I don't have any attachment to it anymore. I'm not that guy that's like, that's how I identify. No, I identify as the man who survived that and won't ever let it happen again, or I identify as the man who's like, that makes me more of a protector. It gives me more compassion.
The empowered survivor.
Yeah, the empowered survivor. Am I going to choose that path? It's way more interesting, and it's way more fun,
It sounds like a new universal aspect. It's like the empowered survivor. Like, that's a universal key.
Yeah.
That's a master key. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to add that one. That one's critical.
That one you have to pay me for. I want credit.
You got to say. Some residuals
Jeff came up with this. We came up with it together.
That's a deep one. It's a really profound one. You said another one earlier too. You've really picked on some big universal fundamental shifts, like the humble as well, like us really opening and being able to fully receive and be humble to the lesson. And it's critical to our evolution. So yeah, you're picking up on a lot of good ones.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's lessons, whatever I am learning is hard fought also, like you say, and I'm still in the process. But I have to say,
hard fought, hard pained.
Yeah.
And also I want to say, it's like, I focused a lot on the shadow, and I'll say that I kind of want to like sort of a final cherry on this
avatars.
Just the idea of the avatar work, because
please, let's get into that. But I was just going to say, before you get into that, just to finish my thought, is like, there's a reason where in all major religions, there's a profound prayer where like people are like, I'm humble before God, so humble before God, I am not worthy, there's a reason for that, not just the majesty of the magic of the synchronicities of this incredible creation. And I'm not trying to go all religious on this subject. It's just like, also like, I am humble, man. Like there's a beauty in being humble. There is a beauty and a freedom in standing in your own weakness. that you can't really find. I can't find anywhere else. So like that's something that I'm glad that's like part of my.
It's a beautiful part of
am.
who you are. Yeah.
Thanks.
You've been that way since I've known you. It's a rich component.
Thank you.
Of your being, inspiration too for me, and my experience knowing you.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, you can really go there in your own heart first, love first.
Yeah, love first.
Yeah, it's a beautiful quality.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
How do I love more? Love operating system. Let's go.
Yes, love operating system. Speaking of the operating system.
Yeah. So
that would be an avatar, because we talked about like how the shadow teaches, but also we are deeply inspired by people who operate and excel in mastery. Like there are great teachers, great leaders that we attune to. It's like tuning a guitar. Like, we tune our melody. We tune our note, the sound of the strings of our being to things that we know a person is holding, like a higher frequency or a clearer frequency or a more precise way of operating, or a more noble, integritous way of being, and we can align to those things. So that the incarnation also allows us not to just learn through suffering, but learn through inspiration, learn through the in spiritu. Like, what is it? Like in spirit, like our spirit is lifted by something that is beautiful, that just like bringing our frequency up, and the shadow can see where we're going off and like bringing it up. But one of the things I've also deeply realized in this work is that you can get a huge amount of work, and some of the great teachers of many ages have said, like, if you spend more time doing the deep work inside, the outside world will not bring you these things, because there's no reason, because you don't need that hit.
Yes.
To change or to see.
Yes.
You are able to see within and just work on the building and the raising of the frequency. And so they both work together, but also just like creating more and more beautiful, high vibe. We talked about vibration, creating more and more powerful, high vibrational ways of being and thinking, and doing, again, in my work, we build a pantheon of parts that allow a person to attune to these aspects.
And I've done that work with you too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and you pop into them.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, those shadow parts fall more away.
Yeah. Because
they aren't able to hook you.
Yeah.
When you're in that energy,
that avatar
part, so that's also just a super important part of my work and path, and my understanding of consciousness is like, what are those things? There's an incredible amount of systems out there that can help, but I focus a lot on like looking at different people and what is it in them that they can attune to, that like pop them into their higher states.
Yeah.
And also myself, every season is another period of me looking at what I can become,
Yeah, I really admire you for that. It's really beautiful. Every time we meet, I'm like, oh, he's leveled up. It's really nice to see. I really love that you're putting all this work out there, that you're really like allowing yourself to give it to the world, doing retreats and the book and everything. And it's like really, It's in service. It's a big, deep service. Like I really get it feels very much like this is what you're here to do. It's really beautiful to witness you doing this work.
Thank you so much for letting me share this in your container. It's been a real enjoyable process for me to talk about this work in a conversational context with someone I love.
Yeah.
And can really meet the moments. So I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I'm moved. If you can't tell, all right, I got allergies in my eyes. Yeah, it's something I just wanted to finish with. One of Kai Corral's favorite things to say is, transformation comes either from inspiration or desperation, which is what you were just pointing to.
Exactly. Wow.
So you can if you want to
So
fucking
good.
beat your head on the ground over and over again and go to AA meetings and stuff, like, God bless AA. No offense to AA, saves a lot of lives. Okay. If you want to do that, if you want to have bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship after bad, until finally you're like, oh wait, maybe the common denominator is me. Maybe there's something I need to look at. That's fine. Life, that'll be how it is, And then if you believe in reincarnation, then maybe you're just going to continue on that cycle. And if you don't, fine, that's fine. That's even worse, because you just ended not doing the thing, not evolving consciously. Yeah. Like the inspiration, it's an opportunity, and most people don't take it. They take the hard road, which is weird. But that's part of the training, and I think that's also part of they
don't have the awareness or the knowledge
or the education. It hasn't been trained. It's not part of the system. Like, this is what you're talking about. This system, all the work that you're doing, is education. It's allowing us to name what is not named, so that then we can handle it. Like, something that I've been thinking about this whole conversation, and something that also Jung talks about in the Essays on Nature book, is like, there was a time when there was no language, but people were around. We didn't have words. There was a time when there was no fire either. Right? The Prometheus dilemma, I think he calls it. What were we like when we couldn't talk? Because we were alive and we were doing things. And there's a lot of schools of thought and ideas out there, and there's some scientific evidence, if you're willing to look at it, about that there's telepathic abilities and people are able to communicate without thoughts, and probably when there was no language, it was easier in certain ways for us to communicate, be with each other, right? There's evidence in other species that's going on, that there's not group mind, but collective mind, collective consciousness. You see it with crows and dolphins and whales and different birds populations, scientifically proven. Yeah. Now we have all of this language, and which is beautiful, but it's also limiting. So then how do we? But it's beautiful, and it works for us if we are able to name what is not named, so that then we can have mastery over it, which is really what you're doing.
Name what is not named.
Yeah. Being willing to look.
You just nailed it.
Call it what it's called. So that's beautiful. Let us continue that work. Thank you for doing it. So how do people, what's the book called? When does it come out? How do people get in touch with you? What's your deal, Bray?
The book is going to be called The Art of Becoming. It'll be finished most likely midsummer. And they can reach me at Lucien Vattel on Instagram.
That's LucienVattel.
Yeah.
For people.
Yeah. And also Become Agency. So my agency is called the Become Agency. It's
.com or
it's becomeagency.co.co. And there are 3 programs. One is called Icon, which is transformation for launching yourself into the world, using those principles to become an icon of your gifts. How do you pop into becoming prosperous, being who you are and how you want to serve. But then there's the Avatar program, which is the Keys to Inner Mastery, which is just a full-on multi-tiered mastery program of doing a lot of the things that we talked about today in very particular protocols, group retreats, but also one-on-one or group pods. And then I have a mystery school called Magus, which is for those
the mystery school.
Those interested in more of the esoteric, metaphysical aspects of what I'm talking about, and moving into the higher realms of thought around some of these concepts. We didn't get into that today, but it's a mystery. So
yeah, it's a mystery. Got to go to the mystery school to get the mystery. But yeah,
some things are meant to be mysterious so that one can learn.
Well, and also, like, in fairness to mysteries and the whole concept of mystery school, which on one end is like, what? It's laughable. But it's not laughable when you consider that, like, and this is going to bring us into our final question here, into so often when something is really sacred, and it's really sacred, and if you were to just tell everybody what it was, it would not be sacred anymore, because it wouldn't be contained in that container. Like, I went through a men's initiation, right? And there are certain things that happened that I could tell you about, and you probably would understand, and actually you probably would keep it secret if I told you. But I made a vow of confidentiality to my brothers that went through the same thing that I went through. And also part of it is, like, it honors just the fact that I had my own experience. So, like, you really have to, and having something like a mystery school like you have, and I know the context and where you're coming from, etc. If it's not clear on this podcast, you're legit. So, like, there's something about, I really want to learn. I want to go deeper in this realm, and so that I'm going to sign up for it. That makes it more meaningful. If we spilled the beans on all that stuff, it would be pearls before swine. There.
Yeah, and in a way, this tradition of one of the traditions of the mystery school is that if you know the answer ahead of time, the deep teaching, if you know the cheat code, if you know the answer to the test, it's the same thing with the incarnated life. Like, if you knew the end of the story, it would ruin the experience of having that aha moment, of having that because what you're doing when you're doing a mystery school and you're doing a deep mysterious guidance program, the guide is creating a series of experiences that allow a person to have the awakened moment. Mm-hmm. If I was to just tell you what was in the curriculum fully, it would not only lessen that, the way in which you have the awakened moment is a key spiritual aspect of, like, embodying the gift and the knowledge of that moment. Mm-hmm. And so the mystery tradition, with those types of works, when you're really unpacking the mysteries, and they're meant to be fun. They're meant to be an adventure. They're meant to be a series of Russian dolls that, like, whoa, wow, that was amazing. Is that the answer?
Spiritual.
Like, oh no, whoa, we're getting even deeper. Whoa, there's even something beyond that. And that is and I love experiential learning. That's also the tradition of my work, is creating learning through creating containers that elicit experiences that teach these things.
Yeah, like a spiritual escape room.
Boom.
I'm into it. And also I would just say to your point, I've studied a lot of Zen. The name Eido, E-I-D-O, is my Dharma name, which was given to me by a Zen teacher. I went through this process called Jukai, where you study with a Zen teacher for 6 months, and you do koan study with them, and and at the end they give you a name. My name's Eido, which means illuminating way, which is a high calling, and sort of like, you better illuminate the way, Bubba, or else, you know what I mean? That's my
It's beautiful.
my Dharma. It is beautiful. I feel very grateful.
I didn't know that.
And what was really fascinating was like at the ceremony that we did it, my teacher, my name is Jeffrey. The name Jeffrey, Geoffrey, means keeper of the light. So then my name means keeper of the light, illuminating way. Which again, high calling. Good luck, kid. Keep going.
Keeper of the light.
Yeah, illuminating way. So, obviously
It's beautiful.
it's and that's the thing is it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm up to. Then I better up level my game and who I'm being and be humble and, you know what I mean? Keep shining the light and be true and vulnerable and honest and etc.
Yeah. I'd be curious if you were to just like really journal a full unpacking of Keeper of the Light and elucidate that archetype in its fullest expression. And just like we talked about, bring word to the form of that and all of its all of the qualities of that dharmic archetype that you hold. I think that would be a pretty fascinating study.
Yes, and that's a good example of what Lucien does with people.
Yeah,
I agree. But so the point that I was going to say is,
hey Jeff,
what?
I gotta pee in my pants. I'm at the point. Probably 10 minutes ago, I started reaching I got to go to the bathroom.
I can wrap this up in 60 seconds.
But I also have
unless you want to go pee.
Emerging migraine. Okay.
Zen koans, right, are like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Well, it's not this. It's a question that's designed for you to break your dualistic way of thinking that you can only answer in front of a Zen teacher. And you could look up the answer, but it wouldn't be sacred and you wouldn't have any sort of experience of awakening, which is similar to what the mystery school is for you. Okay. I just wanted to throw that in there. Final question, Lucien Vattel, for you. What is sacred and what is insane?
Sacred is acknowledging the divinity. Well, sacred is creating. For me right now, where I'm at with it, I mean, there's so many ways to look at sacred, but I'll just do something. It's the power of initiating sacred space. Is so powerful. Like it's one of the most, like for people who start creating a sacred room or an altar or having a sacred practice where they are not taking things for granted. They're not taking things for light. They are imbuing something as important and very special from the aspect of spirit. Mm-hmm. It's an acknowledgement for me that fundamentally we are spiritual beings and we're going to create something in our lives, a podcast, a path, a prayer, a relationship that we're going to hold as sacred, as important spiritually to us. And we're going to imbue it with as much opportunity to feel the sacredness of it, which basically builds a temple around it and allow very magical, very sacred, very holy things to happen in it and to watch what emerges when we hold it as such.
Beautiful.
Insanity is... Fuck, man. Insanity is losing yourself in the wildness and chaos of creation. And I think unhealthy insanity is where you lose yourself in a way that fragments. Mm-hmm. I think healthy insanity is there's just something I experienced a couple of journeys where it kind of threw me off. They were like, we're going to do sacred chaos magic tonight. We're going to do chaos. We're going to allow chaos to reign. And I thought that feels really irresponsible, you know,
and terrifying.
and terrifying. And what it was taught to me, and the teacher that explained, she was like, you know, there are just certain things that can't emerge unless you allow chaos to reign. And it's kind of like we were talking about all the molecules. So I think, you know, a little insanity now and again,
It's good.
makes you something that I should rhyme with that makes it sound cool. I don't know. A little insanity now and again makes
You better men
you better men and women.
and women,
People.
people.
Yeah, I think that there's a place for insanity for sure. And howling at the moon and any other time where like you and your friends or you know, ran out naked into the lake, or the just total, in some ways, insanity can be expressed as a pure form of liberation. I've had some pretty profound experiences where I surrendered to sort of that in medicine, to like allow myself to like just go insane for a little bit and just allow it to happen. Allow the molecules to reconfigure, you know, allow my worst fears to just express. Great art. There's great art in madness.
Yes, indeed. Beautiful answer. That's the longest answer I've had to that question. Credit.
I need to.
And it was a very good answer.
I need to have better sound bites.
No, it was really good. I love it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Much love to you out there. If you want to support this program, go to patreon.com/Lunacy podcast. Much love to all of you. We'll see you soon.